Hello everyone, this is Mr. Molo for lesson 6-3, exponential functions, part 2. So we got a couple things left to talk about. So 12 and 13, they want us to write the function. So remember, we're going to have a number in front of the parentheses, a number in the parentheses, and then the x for the exponent. Okay, and the way that we're going to write this number is our y-intercept, and this number is basically our slope. Okay, so if we have here, our y-intercept is 3, where it's crossing the y value, so 3. And then our slope, if we kind of look at it, or what the pattern is, from 3 to 18, 18 to 108, 108 to 684, we are multiplying by 6 to the x power. So again, looks a lot harder than it really is. If I were to tell you to write an exponential function for that, you're going to be like, Mr. Molo, I can't do that. But if you remember that that first number is our y-intercept, and the second number is our slope, it probably looks a little easier, okay? This one, they try to trick you, and we get tricked, okay? So if I look at the numbers here, so it looks like the first number they give us is 0 and negative 0.5. Well, at least that's good. They gave us the y-intercept, so the y-intercept is negative 0.5. But for us to get our slope now, it's kind of tricky, because now they gave us 0, negative 0.5, negative 0.5, negative 1, negative 1, negative 2, and then negative 1.5 and negative 4. So I drew an extra box there. So remember, our slope really is how much it goes up or down for each one. So some of you might say, well, Mr. Molo, you're multiplying by 2 here, because from negative 0.5 to negative 1, you're multiplied by 2. From negative 1 to negative 2, you're multiplied by 2. And by negative 2 to negative 4, you're multiplying by 2. But really, since we're going down, and your slope is for every one spot, so we can only look at these. So it looks like from negative 0.5 to negative 2, and since we're going down, we're really going by 1/4, not multiplying by 2. So kind of tricky there because they threw those halves in there. But we can also kind of do like the same thing here and like multiply by like 3. Like if I put in like 0.5 and 9, well, that makes it look a lot different because you're like, well, I don't know what the pattern is there because you're throwing in these halves. So kind of looks a little different there on 13 because they throw in those fractions. All right, and then on 14, we need to graph this point, and then what are the y-intercepts, domain, range, and how are they affected by the translation? Okay, so our y-intercept, since it says plus 3, means it is plus 3. So y-intercept is positive 3. Domain, all real numbers. Doesn't matter if it's 2x or 2x plus 3, it is all real numbers. The range does change. And the reason the range changes is because this one has a plus 3. So for this one, I'll circle this in red, my range is y has to be greater than 0. But for this one, I'll circle it in green, since it has a y-intercept of 3, my range has to be greater than 3. So that's what that plus 3 adds. I'll show you that on Desmos. So y equals 2 to the x power, okay? And then we add that plus 3. So what that really does is add that 3 there. You can even do 2 graphs here so you can see the difference. 2 to the x power plus 3. So kind of the same line, same slope, same everything. One's not going bigger, faster, or anything. One's just starting 3 units higher because it says plus 3. Okay, so let's go through this homework. Okay, so first couple questions, like I said, it'll ask you if it's an exponential function. You have to say it does or does not, and then you have to say why. So is it a linear function? Remember, if it follows that y equals mx plus b, does it fit the pattern? Is it constant? So that means it's just like y equals, x squared or something. Well, that's always going to be constantly going up by a squared. Or then does it not fit, or does it fit the pattern, or it doesn't fit the pattern because b isn't 1, or b is 1, or it doesn't fit the pattern because b is negative. So a couple things to watch out for there. Okay, here we have to determine if it's linear or nonlinear, just like we did on examples 1 through 4, and then saying what it increases by. And then next couple, 16, 18, 20, are like 5 through 7 on the examples that we did in the packet. and that's one where we're just solving. And this is what I was talking about before. So some of those graphing ones we did, like 8, 9, and even some of the ones we did, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, look a lot harder. But like I said, there's 4 options here. Pretty much once you put it on Desmos, you should be able to pick which option you're going to go with there. Okay, 26, 28, and 30 are the ones I'm kind of worried about, because this has a lot of information in there, because this is where you're talking about the domain and the range and the stretch and the shrink. Okay, so again, you're kind of comparing what is that -4 going to do to the graph. Okay, and then again, what's the domain and range? Luckily with the graph, you can kind of figure out domain is always going to be all real numbers, and the range, you can kind of see where the range is. Remember, your range is your lowest point of your y or the highest point of your y, depending if it's going down or going up. Okay, and then you have ones that just ask you about the domain and range. Like I said, with those graphs, should at least be a little easier. And then you got 2 where you are writing out the exponential functions, like we just did on 12 and 13. So hopefully me explaining it there helps a little bit going through the homework. Let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.